Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 3, Talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. So we are at text 23, very beautiful long purport, and here mood of Lord Shiva is also being explained very beautifully. Yeah, please continue.
Lord Shiva said that since his heart was always filled with the conception of Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of the Supreme Lord's presence within his mind and heart, he was always offering obeisances unto the Supreme Godhead. In other words, Lord Shiva is always in trance, that is Samadhi. The Samadhi is not under the control of the devotee, it is under the control of Vasudeva. For the entire internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead acts under his order. Of course, the material energy also acts by his order, but his direct will is specifically executed through the spiritual energy. Thus, by his spiritual energy, he reveals himself. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.6, Sambhavami Atma Maya. Atma Maya means internal potency. By his sweet will, he reveals himself by his internal potency, being satisfied by the transcendental loving service of the devotee. The devotee never commands, My dear Lord, please come here so that I can see you. It is not the position of the devotee to command the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come before him or to dance before him. There are many so called devotees who command the Lord to come before them dancing. The Lord, however, is not subject to anyone's command. But if he is satisfied by one's pure devotional activities, he reveals himself. Therefore, a meaningful word in this verse is adokshaja, for it indicates that the activities of our material senses will fail to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the attempt of one's speculative mind. But if one desires, he can subdue all the material activities of his senses. And the Lord, by manifesting his spiritual energy, can reveal himself to the pure devotee. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to the devotee has no other duty than to offer him respectful obeisances. The Absolute Truth reveals himself to the devotee in his form. He is not formless. Vasudeva is not formless. For it is stated in this verse that as soon as the Lord reveals himself, the devotee offers his obeisances. Obeisances are offered to a person, not to anything impersonal. One should not accept the Mayavad interpretation that Vasudeva is impersonal. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Prapaddati, one surrenders. One surrenders to a person, not to impersonal non-duality. Whenever there is a question of surrendering or offering obeisances, there must be an object of surrender or obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Now further, Srila Prabhupada explains, Lord Shiva is always filled with the conception of Vasudeva. And within his mind, within his heart, all the activities of Lord Shiva, they are always focused on the Supreme Lord. And this state of consciousness is called as Samadhi. So Lord Shiva being the pure devotee, being the greatest devotee, he fulfills all the criteria of a devotee. Mat chitta, mat gata prana, bodhayanta parasparam. He is very deeply absorbed in Supreme Lord. And Srila Prabhupada writes here, this Samadhi is not under the control of a devotee. Lord Shiva is helplessly under great meditation on the Supreme Lord. Right. Later we will see this very similar to Prahlad Maharaj also. Prahlad Maharaj writes there, I am haunted by a graha called as Krishna Grahatma. You know, that sometimes people get haunted. So Prahlad Maharaj says, similarly, my mind is also haunted by Krishna Graha. I don't know when I am laughing, when I am smiling, who is taking care of me and what is happening to me. And this is precisely the condition of Lord Shiva is. And therefore, he is always in samadhi. And to expect from such a personality that he will sit and up and down and all these things is very, very immaterial. You know, it is not to be expected from the stature of Lord Shiva. Now, this internal potency is under control of the Supreme Lord. Of course, everything is under the control of the Supreme Lord, but within that, the internal potency directly, the will of the Lord flows through the internal potency. That is called as Sambhavami Atmamayaya. Atmamaya is internal potency. And a devotee on such a state will never demand the Supreme Lord. Sometimes there is, there are some sahajiyas who will say that, oh, when I say Krishna comes dancing in front of me, or sometimes people say that, Krishna came in my dream and people will be talking about it. That is not a mood of a devotee. A devotee will never demand Krishna's presence, right? Because he is not subjected to anybody's command. But the Lord is Adhokshaja. Prabhupada says, what otherwise we can understand with our material senses? And therefore, the name used here, one of the name used here is Adhokshaje. Adhokshaje means the Supreme Lord who is beyond the conception of matter. Now, because Lord Shiva is saying that he's always offering obeisances, now you will offer obeisances only to an object or personality. So that Vasudev is not impersonal, not that some light has become Vasudev. No, Vasudev means personality. So prapadyate or offering obeisances or taking surrender, that means there has to be an object of surrender or obeisances. And that also means the Lord is form with a form, is not a formless light that Lord Shiva is thinking of. Text 24. Tatti nirikshyo na pitapi dehakrit daksho mamadvit tadunu vrataschaye yo vishvasryat gatam varoruma managasam durvachasa karotiraha. Translation.
Translation. Therefore, you should not see your father, although he is the giver of your body, because he and his followers are envious of me. Because of his envy, O most worshipful one, he has insulted me with cruel words, although I am innocent. Purport. For a woman, both the husband and the father are equally worshipable. The husband is the protector of a woman during her youthful life, whereas the father is a protector during her childhood. Thus, both are worshipable, but especially the father because he is the giver of the body. Lord Shiva reminded Sati, your father is undoubtedly worshipable even more than I am. But take care, for although he is the giver of your body, he may also be the taker of your body. Because when you see your father, he may insult you because of your association with me. An insult from a relative is worse than death, especially when one is well situated. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Tatte niriksho. Therefore, you should not see your father, because he and his followers, all the followers of Bhrugumunis that who were started cursing Lord Shiva, and the followers of Lord Shiva, they are envious of me, O worshipful one. Right. So this is Lord Shiva is talking to Sati, He has insulted me with cruel words, and although I am innocent. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, for a woman, both husband and father are equally worshipable. Okay. And vice versa. For a man, wife and mother both are equally worshipable. Now, word worshipable here is used by Lord Shiva himself for Sati. Okay, so there is no harm in using that word. So it is vice versa. Because the both are at particular, both are giving shelter, both are giving saath at a particular time in the period. And especially your Lord Shiva says, but between the two, the father is more because he is giver of the body. And in this case, your father is unnecessarily envious of me, and you are in a very tricky situation. And if he insults you, that insult will be worse than death, because especially you are well situated. Now, this is how the people who are well situated, they suffer from relationships, right? So when we are not well situated, when we are struggling this and that, some insult here and there, we may tolerate. But when one is well situated, materially or spiritually, and some insult coming to somebody who is well situated, that becomes very, very insultful, or that becomes, as Lord Shiva says here, that will be worse than death. Later we'll see example of Dhruva Maharaj. He was insulted. It is worse than death. Dhruva became so angry. Insult from coming from very close relative, his own mother and father was chupchap. Dhruva became extremely angry. We will see those verses, how Dhruva became angry and how he felt great insult. Text 25. Yadi vrajipyasyatihaya madbhavo bhadram bhavastya na tato bhavishyati sambhavitasya svajanat parabhavo yada hi sadyo maranaya kalpate. Translation.
If, in spite of this instruction, you decide to go, neglecting my words, the future will not be good for you. You are most respectable, and when you are insulted by your relative, this insult will immediately be equal to death. Purport. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 3rd chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Talks between Lord Shiva and Sati.
So here Lord Shiva says, Swajanat parabhavo, that my dear wife, if you go in spite of my instruction, neglecting my words, the future will not be good for you. You are most respectable one, and you were insulted by your relatives. This insult will be Sadhyo Maranaya Kalpate. This insult will immediately be equal to death for you. These are words of Lord Shiva. Right? Look at the next chapter. Chapter 4. Sati quits her body. So, we should never take the words of great personalities lightly. Never take. I remember once there is a Gaurang Prabhu tells this very wonderful story. He once was getting his friend, his Christian friend, it was, college me, when Gaurang Prabhu was in IIT those days. This is from Gaurang Prabhu's classes I'm speaking. And he got this boy who was like, a very, very neglectful person. And he came he came to Radhanath Maharaj's classes. And Maharaj was speaking in the class, material world, Dukhalayam, Ashashvatam, this and that. And he was so callous in the class. And in the question answer, he said that, Maharaj, I have never seen misery in my life, And Maharaj, he just spoke, okay, then you will see. And that man just remember this one line, that okay, then you will see. And then he says that he's just, of course, not that Maharaj cursed him or something like that. But the point here is that the words from a great personalities, they have to be very highly honored. Here, Lord Shiva is very clearly saying. Similarly, we will see in Bhagavad Gita also. Lord Krishna says this, that mat prasadat tarishyati. If you follow these words, you will be successful, my dear Arjuna. But if you neglect this word, it will destroy you and your reputation. Then you decide whatever you want to do. Want to fight the war or don't want to fight the war. Right. So this is Swajanat Parabhavo Sadhyo Maranaya Kalpate. Other side of this is that one should not take the interactions between the relatives very seriously. Especially somebody insulting us. इसने wish नहीं किया. Nowadays there are so many reasons to be happy and happy. इसने मेरे post को like नहीं किया. इसने wish नहीं किया. So if you are, I'm many times nowadays, so I'm just getting out of so many WhatsApp groups because somebody will put some message there, and if you don't thumbs up, and people are putting message for anything literally nowadays, that how I'm brushing my teeth, how I'm combing my hair, how I'm, all those stupid things also people keep on putting, and people have expectations that, usko thumb karo, like karo, ye karo, wo karo, and all that. So, but what the point here is that, both it is amanina manadena. One has to keep liking people and not expect anybody to like my post. Or, so this is very important that, we should not get caught in this swajanat parabhavo, that, being harassed by the relatives. So one's own conduct should be in such a way that one will give all respect to swajana, and one should not expect respect return from the swajana. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching is. Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So here, Lord Shiva very clearly speaks these very heavy words. And look at the positioning of Lord Shiva. These very verses, 10, 12 verses from 16 to 25, 10 verses of Lord Shiva. How beautifully Lord Shiva is, the putting forward his arguments, what words he is using for Sati, respected one, Shobhane, Sumadhyame, and but very clearly making the point. And finally he says, Swajanat Parabhavo Sadhyo Maranaya Kalpate. This will be equal to your death. Please do not go. Chapter 4, Sati quits her body. Any question? Any discussion here?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, for chapter 3, I think we missed to talk about the sections. So if you can maybe help us
There
with
are two
that.
sections only in this chapter. One is,
Uh-huh.
discussion with Lord Sati, basically asking for Lord Shiva's this thing, and then Shiva asking Sati not to. But we'll go in much, we will see the exact sections. Yeah, good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other question? But one thing is Sati, the pratha has nothing to do with this Sati, right? So this one important thing is this important thing is there. So we come to text 4 now. Chapter 4. Just give me a minute. Yeah, text 1. Maitreya uvacha etavadutva virarama shankarah patnyankanasham ya bhayadrachintayan sudruष्टदक्षु परिशंकिता भवान् निष्कामति निर्विशितिं द्विधाससा. Translation.
The sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva was silent after speaking to Sati. Since Sati was anxious to see her relatives at her father's house, but at the same time, she was afraid of Lord Shiva's warning. Her mind unsettled. She moved in and out of the room as a swing moves this way and that. Purport: Sati's mind was divided about whether to go to her father's house or obey the orders of Lord Shiva. The struggle between the two decisions was so strong that she was pushed from one side of the room to another, and she began to move just like the pendulum of.
Yeah. Maitreya Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva was silent after speaking with Sati. He's concluded with his Sadhyo Maranaya Kalpate. After speaking Sati, seeing her between the decisions. Now Sati was very anxious. On one hand, she's seeing all the Vimanas, they are going, her sisters, everybody, they are traveling from one place to another. On another hand, she was gauging the very strong words by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's warning. Her mind unsettled, she moved in between, in and out of the room as a swing moves this or that way. So there is a very beautiful, the rule of thumb, which is, there is a good thinker, his name is Naval Ravikant, and he speaks about some rules of thumbs. So he says, when you are in doubt, answer is no. Of course, don't apply it excessively, but this is the rule of thumb, that when you are in doubt, answer is no. So Sati should not have gone. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Sati's mind was divided whether to go to her father's house or obey the orders of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva had very clearly told, correct? Swajanat parabhavo. And therefore, she was just like a swing going from one room to another, like a plain pendulum of a clock. Text 2. सुहृद्दिद्रक्षा प्रतिघातदुर्मना स्नेहात्रुदाति अश्रुकलातिविह्वला भवं भवानी अप्रतिपुरुषं वृषा प्रध्यक्षति वैक्षतजातवे पथुः. Translation.
Sati felt very sorry at being forbidden to go see her relatives at her father's house, and due to affection for them, tears fell from her eyes. Shaking and very much afflicted, she looked at her uncommon husband, Lord Shiva, as if she were going to blast him with her vision. Purport: the word Aprati Purusham used in this verse means one who has no equal. Lord Shiva has no equal in the material world in regard to equality towards everyone. His wife Sati knew that her husband was equal towards everyone. So why in this case was he so unkind to his wife that he did not allow her to go to her father's house? This distressed her more than she could tolerate, and she looked at her husband as if she were ready to blast him with her vision. In other words, since Lord Shiva is the Atma, Shiva also means Atma. It is indicated here that Sati was prepared to commit suicide. Another meaning of the word Apratipurusha is the personality who has no rival. Since Lord Shiva could not be persuaded to give her permission, Sati took shelter of a woman's last weapon, weeping, which forces a husband to agree to the proposal of his wife.
Yeah. So here now, Sati felt very sorry at being forbidden to go to see to her relatives at her father's place. Due to affection for them on one hand, very deep affection for them, tears fell from her eyes, shaking. Look at the words, shaking. And very much afflicted, she looked at her uncommon husband, Lord Shiva, as if she were going to blast him with her vision. Right. Bhavam Bhavani, Apratipurusham Rusha. Rusha means extremely angry. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that Lord Shiva is a very uncommon personality. Right. Sati was thinking that why you're not like other common people. I would have just gone with you. Daksha has so many. Your personality is such a different personality, always absorbed with the Supreme Lord. Sometimes, So the Lord Shiva there is nobody equal to him, to Lord Shiva. None is equal to Lord Shiva. And in this case, he also did not give her permission to go. And this Sati was now caught between this very strong sankalpa vikalpa where to go or not to go. And thus she looked at her husband with a blasting vision. Lord Shiva is also called as Atma. So Srila Prabhupada writes here, the warning by Lord Shiva, Sati is, the way you begin the activity. Sati began this activity of going to Dakṣa Yajna with all this kind of a dialogue that concluded with Lord Shiva's warning, and she's going to leave the house with, it gives very strong indication what is going to happen in the due course of time. Right. Well begin is half done. Here everything was going wrong for Sati. And the Sati, she just began to cry, and Prabhupada writes that is the last weapon of her, which she thought that will make Lord Shiva agree to her proposal. Text 3. Tato vinishvasya sati vihayatam shokena roshena chaduyitarudha pitrogatatstrainya vimudhadigruhan premnatmana yo artham adat satam priyah. Translation.
Thereafter, Sati left her husband, Lord Shiva, who had given her half his body due to affection. Breathing very heavily because of anger and bereavement, she went to the house of her father. This less intelligent act was due to her being a weak woman. Purport. According to the Vedic conception of family life, the husband gives half his body to his wife, and the wife gives half of her body to her husband. In other words, a husband without a wife or a wife without a husband is incomplete. Vedic marital relationship existed between Lord Shiva and Sati. But sometimes due to weakness, a woman becomes very much attracted by the members of her father's house. And this happened to Sati. In this verse, it is specifically mentioned that she wanted to leave such a great husband as Shiva because of her womanly weakness. In other words, womanly weakness exists even in relationship between husband and wife. Generally, separation between husband and wife is due to womanly behavior. Divorce takes place due to womanly weakness. The best course for a woman is to abide by the orders of her husband. That makes family life very peaceful. Sometimes there may be misunderstandings between husband and wife, as found even in such as elevated family relationship as that of Sati and Lord Shiva. But a wife should not leave her husband's protection because of such misunderstanding. If she does so, it is understood to be due to her womanly weakness. Thank you, Prabhu.
So now, Shokena Roshena Chaduyata Rida. Thereafter, Sati left her husband, Lord Shiva, who had given her his half the body due to affection. Breathing heavily because of anger and bereavement, she went to the house of her father. This less intelligent act was due to her being a weak behavior. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the Vedic conception is that the husband and wife, they are non-separated. Right. So, for wife, the husband is the better half, and for the husband, wife is the better half. And this is way different than the modern words like Shadi, and Shadi is different and Vivaha is different. One should not simply equate the two things. Like a church is different and temple is different. Church is a place to congregate together. Temple is the place where Lord incarnates personally. So we just nowadays Sarvadharma Samabhav, we just put whole thing in just one breath only people will say, no, these are two different things. Church can be closed in, during the lockdown. Temple cannot. because the Lord is there. The Lord, the all different services to the Lord are going to go on. Temple is not just the place to congregate. Temple is the place where Lord personally descends. Right? Pratima nahi tumi sakshat Brajendra Nandan. Similarly, shadi is not equal to vivaha. Shadi is a contractual marriage. It's a contract, right? And in fact, if you go in depth of the Abrahamic religions, the shadi is just a contract. And if you go to something like Afghanistan and all those places, that contract is so. I mean, there are some videos on the YouTube you can watch. It is just like a contract. You just throw some money and they take the lady, and that's how the contract is. Vivaha is much deeper, right? In fact, there is a very beautiful word for vivaha in Sanskrit that is called as kalyanam. This is the word for vivaha. So there are such beautiful songs, especially some Tamil Sanskrit songs about Sita Kalyanam, Rama Kalyanam. So if you think, what is Sita Kalyanam? Sita Kalyanam is Sita Mata getting married to Lord Ram. So this is the Sita Kalyanam. So vivaha is very, very sacred samskara. And therefore, we should do all these things, matching the kundali and, doing the vivaha and the samskara to have a greater impression of that samskara. Contract means, you just do a couple of signatures and, clap few hands, and 10 minutes, the contract is over. The actual positioning of the contract is over. But vivaha samskara, it will go on for the considerable period. There will be Saptapati, there will be Agni, Devata, Yagya will be there. The Supreme Lord will be invoked in the form of the deity will be there. Devote. So, Yagya, so Vivaha goes far deeper than the Shadi. And therefore, it is great responsibility of husband and wife to maintain to that Vivaha. In this case, one may think that Prabhupada is writing about womanly behavior. Let's wait for a few purports. Prabhupada very strongly writes about the manly behavior also. Importance of manly behavior in the Vivaha Samskar. So both of them, man and woman, they have to take care of their own weaknesses. And this samskara is a lifetime of, not just one lifetime. The Sanatana Dharma talks about the 7 lifetimes. But somehow, something which is very unheard, Sati left the house of Lord Shiva. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you,
Jai.
Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna
small-
Prabhuji, Dhampranam Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji, Dhampranam Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, this means like Sati did not really take the permission of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva did not give permission to her as to go to her parents' house, but still she went, right? Should we understand?
Clearly no permission.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Right? Yeah, Hare Krishna.